Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Number One Leading Ladies. This is a podcast made by women for women. What we do is we help build each other up instead of tear each other down. So today we have Mandy McAllister on the show with us. I'm so excited. We're doing audio, we're doing video, all the things. Mandy, will you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell our audience what you do and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, I guess I'm Mandy McAllister, like you said. I am, by day, I am a medical device sales rep. I sell a cardiac implant for patients. And by night, I invest in real estate. So primarily multifamily, small multi stuff is what I do. And I just started a little bit ago, Aspiring Women Achieving More, which is a Facebook group and soon to be online blog, which has exactly the same mission as you. So really pumped to be part of this today.
Yeah, I'm sad that we had a retreat planned, and
I
if
know.
you're listening to this later, we're in the COVID phase.
Right.
So as far as international travel, that's not really happening right now. I mean, we can leave, but I don't know if we'll be able to come back. So that's why I'm not leaving.
Uh-huh.
So really, it's just going to be about a 25 to 30-minute podcast. And really, there's just three questions that I ask everybody that's a guest on the show. And I've actually started switching up the order depending on how our conversation goes. But the first one I always start off with everybody, for the most part, that's not a business owner thinks, like, even right now, it's kind of funny to watch how this is all playing out with the EIDL and with the Paycheck Protection Program and like all this stuff. People think that being a business owner is like really cool and you can make your own schedule and like you guys must be really rich and have a lot of money and all this stuff. And I don't know what planet you're on, but we're on this planet, and as an entrepreneur, there's always challenges. So what I like to ask is, getting your businesses up and running, there's always kind of a point of getting some momentum, but there's always challenges before you get that momentum. What challenges have you seen that were, I guess, the greatest challenges in your businesses, and what did you do to overcome those?
That's a great question. I'll tell you, challenges are different depending on the business, but it all kind of boils down to you, right? Like, for me, I'm a single mom. I've got, this business that I'm trying to grow of multifamily investing and, trying to do right by my company and help patients out with this cardiac implant. The feeling of overwhelm, I think, is so common, especially with women. The one way that I have found that helps me around that is time blocking. I'll show you right here. So I actually just use a spreadsheet that I print out, and I put what I'm doing at whatever hour of the day so that I can switch gears. And when I'm playing with my kid, like I can put all of this away and actually just play cards. And then I don't feel the mom guilt when I'm doing stuff like this. So I'd say addressing overwhelm by time blocking is the biggest way that I've grown my businesses.
Yeah, it's so true. Now, what would you say in your time blocking? So for example, like I've got multiple lists of stuff going on right now and I hate that, but what's happening right now is it's just everything is abnormal. So normally I do that.
Yep.
Right now there's been some things where you wake up and the priority today has changed from what it was yesterday. So for example, those loan applications in, communicating with partners and getting like documents that we needed and certain things that normally are not even a thing. We have our other loans on our properties; those are taken care of. And then anyway, so just kind of planning and restructuring, and then some places we've stopped spending on CapEx, like all kinds of stuff. But so priorities have changed, and now that it's kind of calmed down a little bit, now what I'm left with, like these like 3 running lists over here of just like all this stuff that I need to do. So I need to then do that in that time blocking stuff. For example, like quarterly, I want to do or create a white paper for our company and kind of people that are subscribed to our content on industry things that have changed or really pertinent information on their investments. Anyway, so it's yeah. So I'm overwhelmed looking at these lists of stuff and do it like this. But since I use time block, it does help.
I got something else for you. So I'm a big Tony Robbins follower. and he has kind of like, he calls it his RPM, rapid planning method, or something like that. And the one major nugget out of that that might help you is, instead of thinking in the 1,000 things on your list, think about outcomes, right? Like, the outcome you need is for your investors to feel comfortable in this unsure environment, right? That is your outcome. And then what is like the one biggest thing that I can do in order to make that outcome come true? And that feels less overwhelming than 1,000 things. So I encourage you to think in outcomes, and I'll share that Tony Robbins thing with you if you want.
Yeah, another thing too is, like, on my team, I'm definitely like the visionary, so I operate like up here, and I don't like
Yeah,
don't like,
I get it.
don't like lists. I don't like this stuff, but being disconnected, whatever. And we've kind of had to pull back hours and all kinds of stuff. But I need like a COO. I need an integrator, someone that can go take
Mm-hmm.
and execute. So anyway, but time blocking, that's great. What would you say, like, how do you do your time blocking? What makes up those? And is it the same thing every day, or does it vary by the day of the week?
It's all over the place. And it's especially different now than it was when I was out in the field, because I would support patient cases. And, doctor schedules are such that you end up dropping everything and running sometimes. And it's, I've learned that in situations like that, if I keep it fluid, that, like for this 7 hours of these days, my day job gets 100% of my focus, right? And if it's dropping stuff and making other things happen, so be it. And then my time for my family is time for my family. Just making sure that hours are committed to one thing and one thing only. Because like you said, like I operate up here, that leads to playing whack-a-mole in my head, And if I know that I have my one primary thing that I'm focused on, then that is more fulfilling in no matter what it is.
True. And it's like the same thing with everything. You know what I mean? Like, even in business, you have
Yeah.
one thing to focus on, um, one activity at a time, and it's hard. Like, right now I'm getting like Instagram things and text messages and all kinds of stuff. And, someone is texting me right now asking me for like a password to something. And I'm just like, I'm doing this right
Yeah.
now. So you can wait.
Mhm.
And trying to not let it control you. But sometimes it's hard. Like, I don't know about you, but in the changes that we've had happen where it's so much unknown, you kind of get to that place where it's um, like fear and panic and not knowing. And, I
Mhm.
went through that, for a while, stages of grieving, like, this is not an issue. And then it's like, okay, now I'm going to bargain, and now I'm going to take action. So
Mhm.
you are super strung out, if you will, it's easier for this stuff to creep back in because you're not like level headed and delegating and stuff like that. So it definitely has creeped back in. So,
Mhm.
you, like, for example, start your day. So that's something like that when I can, meditate, or when I can have kind of like a way to give myself something first thing, it really
Mhm.
stay kind of okay. How do you do that?
Mhm. You win the morning, you win the day, right? Like that's I do a lot of reading stuff, and I really tried hard to subscribe to the miracle morning thing. But that's a huge commitment, and when you got like a 2, 3, 4 year old waking up because, mama, come help me in the bathroom, like there's not a great way to really set aside that time. But what I will say is, like actually I just moved, and one of the things that I did is I set up a nook way far away from my bed that I plug in my phone, so that I don't go to my phone immediately in the morning. And then I can just have a moment of gratefulness, of just, whether you call it meditation or prayer or gratefulness or whatever it is, just a chance to, you know, be in my own thoughts without a lot of chaos around me. And just even a couple of minutes of that I found to be very focusing, and makes it so that I do end up winning the day a lot more frequently than I lose it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's some of the challenges I think that everybody deals with, and kind of thank you for sharing some good solutions and good ways to handle those. The next thing I want to know is, what would you say so far, period, has been your biggest challenge? or sorry, biggest lesson?
Biggest, just in life and business.
However you want to answer.
Hmm. You know, I mean, I'm knocking on the door of 40, and I'll tell you, there's been a lot of I've had a couple pretty rough years, and I feel like my biggest lesson is, if it's scary, I have to run at it. And for me, vulnerability was scary. And the more that I run at vulnerability, the more fulfilling everything feels. And the more I identify where the juice of life is, like that's what I gotta run. You know, they always say, like, you stop caring, you know, what other people think. And it's just so dang true though. Like all of these, I don't know, all of the things that seem colloquial or played out, a lot of them are true, and that's why they get said so frequently. You know, my biggest lesson has been to really identify the stuff that juices me and run straight at it. You know, the more you can get granular on what it is that you want, the more of it you get.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. Okay. And whenever you figure out what you want, whether that's through, like, vision boarding, or after, meeting somebody who you're like, oh, that is my future self, like right there, or however you want,
Hmm.
then how do you move forward with, like, taking action on that?
You know, how do you eat an elephant, right? Like the one bite at a time. I mean, a lot of what I've been able to figure, I've always kind of figured out how to reverse engineer stuff. Like what is the one thing that I can do right now that, you know, is going to make everything else easier. So, I mean, gosh, even as a kid, I'm 5'9", so I'm tall-ish, but I'm not like, and I wasn't a tremendous athlete, but I decided I wanted to play Division I volleyball, right? So I realized that no other kids, like, what you needed was a coach to come look at you, right? So I wrote letters and signed them to the coach, like handwritten, so that the coaches would come watch me as a 16-year-old kid when we would go play. And then lo and behold, I got noticed and I got to play Division I volleyball. So it was a real lesson in whatever you want. You just got to figure out the one thing right now that's going to work to make it happen. And if you can pull that off, you're going to be so much closer than, you know, just doing the dreaming.
Yeah, yeah. Good, good. Okay, because that's always like the next thing. Someone's like, okay, first of all, you gotta like work on the mindset and get the vision, and then
Hmm.
now what? Like, what's the
Yeah.
yeah? So thank you for that. What the other question I like to ask? What would you say has been your biggest win so far?
My biggest win. Hmm. Gosh, I don't know. It's so funny. Like I do a lot of stuff, you know, but my biggest win is my kid. I'm like, I'm gonna cry. But like, he's such a good person. You know, he's so kind. Like, creating a kid that believes in himself as much as he does is my biggest win that I could ever imagine.
That's awesome. Now, um, I grew up a little bit differently than that. Um, how did you, or I guess kind of, but what age did you start doing what to kind of help that process? Obviously, just being yourself, and being an example by just doing what you're doing. Like that's the first example. Everyone like learns from what they see. Even if they don't know it.
Hmm.
Growing up, like the attitudes people had, or like some of the racism that I grew up with, or some of the things that I was just listening to. It has permeated into
Hmm.
I don't even realize that it has. So just being an example, first thing, but um, I'm not a mom, but I am the oldest of 5 kids, and so my siblings are quite a bit younger, and so there's moments where you're like, I've had this aha, can I share that now? And I don't know
Hmm.
what changes when you're a mom versus their sister. But where I, for example, I'm like, oh, I've done this in real estate and I've been able to make so much money. Can I pay for your license, to help you or whatever? And they're like, not everyone wants to be like you. You know what I mean? Or they just are so resistant.
Hmm.
Same with mom. And if it is, how do you get in there? Or do you just start really young and then it's okay?
you know, he's only 4, so I haven't succeeded yet. Like, he's not a full adult human out in the world. But I mean, I think the biggest thing is people emulate what they see. But then again, you know, he doesn't have to do stuff my way, you know, like my ultimate goal is to, you know, if he wants to be an actor, like go run directly at it if that's what you want, like to figure out what you want piece. I don't think that I even realized that I could pick my own thing that I want until I was much later in life. So, I mean, that even trying to foster what it is that, you know, I don't know. That's a tough question because it's hard because like we found these successes the way we found these successes, and trying to help someone like a sibling, you know, maybe my way's not their way. So, you know, can you, I don't know, what I'm trying to do is help him find what his way is rather than show him mine. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's actually like what true leadership is, being able to help somebody identify their strengths that they don't even know they have, and then help them to
Mm-hmm.
to get to success on their own, in their own way. You know, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I've had a hard time with is like for me growing up, you know, you're told be a dentist, be a doctor, do this, do that, and so I mean, I tried this and I tried that,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't like any of it.
Preach.
Nothing was
Yep.
the thing, you know, or I mean, I could do it because I'm smart, but I didn't like it, you know, and I'm such a passionate person that whatever I do, I really just want to be passionate about it. I want to be myself, you know, and not hate it.
All in. Yep.
You know, figuring that out, that was the hardest thing. And I wish I was kind of able to get my first glimpse of like, you know, understanding myself was the Gallup Strength Finder test. And that was something a recruiter gave me because I was going from like medical dental jobs, and then I wanted to go back into dental from dental, and she's like, hold on, like give it a second, like take this test, and this battery of tests or whatever will show you like what you're good at, whether it's, you know, speaking,
Mm-hmm.
building, whatever your thing is, and then be able to figure out what we could then go for where you're going to really enjoy it. So that taught me that I was a lifetime learner. And so I'm like, oh, that makes sense why I'm in some kind of job, and within 3 months, I understand it and I'm good and I move on. You know, and everyone's like, man, you
Yep.
just, you can't pick something. I'm like, yeah, because I figure it out. I sell a bunch of it, and then I'm like, I'm not doing this forever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that helped. And part of that is like what people call ADD or whatever, but I'm like, I mean, I have so many random skills, like you wouldn't believe it. Like sometimes when these apartments have an issue with something that like, I don't know, has nothing to do with the apartment. It's like people, or it's like food, or it's, I mean, just whatever. I can understand
Mm-hmm.
it, find a resource. And so it helps me be really resourceful when you have a little bit of knowledge about a lot of stuff. So I don't think it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Then later on, I don't know if you've heard of like culture index or predictive index is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But these are tests that basically
Mm-hmm.
look through your high personality traits. So, you know,
Okay.
are you a socializer? Are you autonomous? Are you dependent? There's just certain things that they look at as far as like what drives your personality and just who you naturally are. And then there's going to be one trait of yours, usually not everyone, that's super high compared to the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
So then that was great. And then also using that to be able to like see other people when I don't, like I'm hiring someone new and I don't really know
Yep.
what we're getting into, that's really helped me. And then knowing what their strength is, then I ask them consistently to just focus on that strength so that that can be built, and they can run past everybody else if that strength is built, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But without
Brilliant.
those stuff, I'm like lost. So, you know, how do you do it? Like, how do you go, oh, this is something you're really good at, or do you just see it? Or
For my kiddo or for me? I mean, he's 4. I have no clue how I'm going to do it. You know, like that's, here, I want to like, I don't know, like it's philosophy on parenting stuff. Like I haven't even figured out myself, you know, like how, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And I think that's kind of the great mystery of what it is to be a parent, of how do you foster, you know, what a kid wants and not end up being the parent that puts, you've got to play 74 sports, and then you've got to be a doctor and whatever, like I think the whole, I don't know, you're just sure you're going to screw up your kids somehow. But just, a lot of love, a lot of noticing, a lot of time, a lot of freedom in the right way, I think.
Okay. Awesome. Because I'm like, yeah, obviously I'm still trying to figure myself out too. And like, tricks was what I was trying to get. Do you have any, easy way around it? But no, there's not. Now the last question I've got, if you had anything that you could share with the audience that you think might help expand somebody's mind in a certain way, or just give a really good tip, something that could really help someone today, what would it be?
My mind has opened so much more when I immerse myself into reading and personal development and stuff. And what I would say is, you get this chance to stand on the shoulders of these great people. Like I'm not smarter than any economist, but you know what? Like I read a book and I got to learn their entire life's work, right? So I'm starting at a place that they didn't have to start from. So the more you take in terms of being that lifelong learner, like you were saying, the easier everything is going to get. So, read something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, books have been awesome. And I even try to read books that like I don't like because, for example, I read this one that was like "Don't Retire Broke" or something like that, but it was meant for teachers to read. So reading it was actually really hard for me because it was like very simple and it was very like it just said the same thing like
Yeah.
17 times in every chapter. Like I get it. But there were a few nuggets in there that I was able to pull out to try to understand from like my sister, the teacher, from her perspective, like what is stopping her from ever thinking about having a rental house, or like why when I talked to a teacher last week, when I asked if she had any friends that did rental houses, she was like, oh, it's not like we talk about how much we make. I was like, dude, if I was making a good amount of money doing something passive, I would tell all my friends. Like that's kind of rude not to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
To understand from their perspective, and I think reading helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is everything I've got to ask. If there's anything you want to share, feel free. And really just if our listeners want to get a hold of you to ask any questions or kind of learn more about, doing maybe smaller multifamily or being a better sales rep, or just anything about the cool nuggets that you shared, how can our listeners get a hold of
you? For sure. Best email for me is Mandy at mandymcallister.com. That's MCALLISTER. And definitely, love this mission that you're on here to support other women. And that's exactly what our Aspiring Women Achieving More is doing. So check us out at aspiringwomenachievingmore.com and on our Facebook group. And, looking forward to this revolution of girls running the world. So
Can anybody on Facebook find that group, or is it a private group?
Nope, we made it public so that people could share. We want more positivity just out in the world. So find us there. It's public.
Absolutely. Yeah, I enjoy the commentary that's in there, and I feel like if you, whatever industry you're in, if you have questions, for kind of how we're dealing with it, I like the group a lot. Yeah. So I look forward to hanging out with you in there. And then if any listeners have any questions on maybe if you need me to like send you the direct link to it or any of that, I'd be happy to. So thank you everyone for listening today to Number One Leading Ladies. If you need anything from us, you can email me, admin@theapartmentqueen.com, or you can get a hold of Mandy, just kind of how we mentioned earlier. And we'll see you guys next week on Number One Leading Ladies.